Imagine the hush of late evening, the world cloaked in that velvety darkness just before the turn of midnight. In some traditions, there are nights when the boundaries between our world and the unknown grow thin, allowing things best left undisturbed to slip through. It is on nights like these that a simple, modern convenience, the telephone, can become a conduit for imaginable dread. A chilling tale warns that if your phone rings late at night, the caller ID blank, or the number unrecognizable, you must not pick up. This is not a warning to be taken lightly. It is a rule whispered with the gravity of stories told by those who dared to defy it. This fear is not new. As telephones became household fixtures in the early 20th century, they inspired both fascination and terror. People began to share stories of strange late-night calls in which no one spoke, or a voice whispered their name from an empty line. Some claimed to hear weeping, others a low chuckle echoing through the receiver. These accounts wove a pattern of dread around the simple act of answering a call in the dead of night. But these were merely whispers of a greater fear. What happens when the call is not just a strange occurrence, but a deliberate warning from a place we cannot comprehend? Picture this. It's late. The world outside your window is silent, and your phone suddenly rings. On the other end, a voice, sometimes familiar, sometimes chillingly strange, delivers a message you never expected. These are not just ghost stories. They are documented experiences reported by everyday people and even law enforcement of so-called calls from the other side. Consider the case of Charles Peck, a commuter on the ill-fated Metrolink train that crashed in California in 2008. In the aftermath of the tragic accident, his family members received a series of phone calls from his cell phone. Over the next 11 hours, his phone dialed out to his son, his fiancée, his brother, and his stepmother. When they answered, they heard only static. Rescue workers traced the calls, hoping to find Peck alive. But when they finally located him in the wreckage, he had already passed away long before the calls were made. His phone was never found. Was this a technical glitch, or a desperate attempt by a spirit to reach out, to say goodbye, or to guide rescuers to his side? Stories like this echo across cultures and generations. Parapsychologists have documented dozens of such cases, revealing fascinating patterns. The callers often use familiar phrases and reference specific personal details. The calls are typically brief, the voices faint or distorted, but always unmistakably personal. In some cases, these messages arrive at moments of crisis or indecision, offering comfort or urging caution. They tap into a deep human hope that love and concern can cross even the greatest divide. But what if the call is not a warning to save you? What if the warning is about the call itself? At 2:47 in the morning, Lena's phone vibrated so fiercely that it jumped on the nightstand, flooding the room with a cold blue light. She woke in a sweat, her heart hammering against her ribs. It had been only a week since her mother died of cancer, and Lena still hadn't found the strength to delete her number. Now, on the screen, was a new contact, Mom +1. The profile picture was a blurry photo of her mother by a window, but the eyes were black, empty voids, as if they had been burned out. With a trembling hand, Lena pressed call. The ringing tone was endless, damp, as if it were coming from deep beneath the earth. Finally, silence. And then a voice. It was her own voice, twisted by the rattle of a dying breath, whispering, "Do not answer. It's already inside." Lena gasped, "Mom, is that you?" But the voice continued, now with a wet, gurgling sound in its throat. "It can hear you. Lock the door." The line went dead, leaving only the sound of her own breathing, shallow and ragged, like a drowning woman's. 47 seconds later, the phone rang again. Mom +1. The vibration seemed to resonate in her bones. The screen, which she had not dropped, was now covered in a spiderweb of cracks. Lena remembered the warning, her own voice begging her not to answer. She swiped to decline, but the call immediately returned, this time with a notification. Mom knows you're alone. On the third ring, she tore the SIM card from its slot and powered the phone down. But it did not stay dark. The screen flared to life, pulsing with a venomous red glow, the words burning in the darkness. Pick up the phone. This is the moment of escalation. It is the phase where the ordinary world begins to unravel and eerie phenomena refuse to fade away. Strange events not only persist, but they grow bolder, more intrusive, and impossible to explain. A flickering light becomes a room that plunges into darkness. A misplaced item becomes an object hurled across the room by an unseen force. This persistence wears down the boundaries between normalcy and the unknown. The protagonist's attempts to rationalize or ignore the events become futile, feeding a creeping paranoia that reality itself is beginning to fray. For Lena, that reality was shattering. Panic seized her. She bolted the door and flipped on every light, her reflection in the hallway mirror a pale, terrified mask. And behind her, in the reflection, a shadow flickered in the corridor. A sharp scraping sound echoed from the wall, once, twice, 3 times, like fingernails dragging across plaster. The phone began to speak on its own, her mother's voice now shredded by static.
Daughter, it's in your blood. I tried to leave, but it brought me back.
Lena screamed and hurled the phone against the wall.
It shattered into pieces, but from the broken screen, a thin, black slime began to ooze, carrying the foul stench of decay and antiseptic hospital corridors. Escalation gives way to manifestation. This is the point where the unexplained takes physical form. In countless reports of haunted spaces, 2 chilling phenomena stand out: shadowy figures and a mysterious black slime. Witnesses describe the shadows as human-shaped, but lacking any features, a dense, dark mass that seems to absorb light. Psychologists suggest these might be tricks of the mind, yet the consistency of reports is unsettling. The black slime is even more disturbing. It is a viscous, dark substance found seeping from walls or pooling on floors, often emitting a foul, sulfuric odor. In paranormal lore, it is seen as the physical residue of a powerful negative energy, a sign that a malevolent presence has crossed the boundary from the immaterial into our physical world. For Lena, these were no longer abstract concepts. They were in her home. As dawn broke, it brought not relief, but a profound and chilling silence. A friend, worried after a night of unanswered texts, found Lena's apartment unlocked. The place was pristine. The lights were off, the door was undamaged, and on the nightstand sat Lena's phone, brand new, without a single scratch. But in the contacts, there was an entry for Mom +1 and a record of a single missed call at 2:47 in the morning. Lena was huddled in a corner, whispering what had happened, her voice a raw, broken thing. She was warning me, she repeated, over and over. The friend left that night, promising to return. She came back the next morning with the police. The apartment was empty. Lena was gone. All that remained was a small puddle of black slime on the floor and a shattered phone screen lying beside it. On the broken screen was a single image, a photo of Lena staring into the camera. And standing behind her, a figure with her mother's face, but its eyes were pits of endless, suffocating darkness. They say the +1 is not a country code. It is a legend, a curse passed in whispers. It represents the 1 extra minute you are forced to live in hell right before you die. In that final minute, your own voice calls out from beyond the grave to someone you love, a desperate final warning. But if they answer, if they call back, your spirit will return, and it will not come back alone. It will bring with it the thing that was waiting inside you. It is a curse that spreads through grief and love, turning connection into a contagion. And every night at 2:47, it waits for another call. It waits for someone to answer. and it already knows your address.